There are some mysteries and cases where you are left entirely speechless once the truth is revealed. Some of them are about friends who turned on friends, while others are about the mysterious disappearance of someone. But when it comes to a case where a family member was involved in the murder, well, that's a whole other level of shock. This is the case of 16-year-old Latanya Janelle Carwell, who was reported missing. The discoveries found during the investigations will leave you in absolute disbelief. Latanya Janelle Carwell, better known as Janelle, was a young and brilliant black woman who dreamed of becoming a doctor. She was an honor student at T.W. Josie Comprehensive High School. During the time of her disappearance, she was living with her mother, Tanya Tripp, and stepfather, Leon Tripp. She also had a younger sister, and they all lived in Augusta, Georgia. Janelle had just turned 16 on April 17, 2017. Her birthday fell on Easter Sunday, which meant there was to be much celebration on this particular weekend. On Saturday, the day prior to Janelle's birthday, she held her celebration cookout party where she invited lots of her friends to their home. After a full day of excitement, her mother decided to go to bed early as Janelle and her stepfather Leon finished cleaning up. After they were done with everything, Janelle and Leon retired to their beds. However, Leon woke up in the middle of the night and asked his wife Tanya for her phone. He gave the excuse that he wanted to go and help out a friend whose car had broken down. Since Tanya did not suspect a thing, she gave Leon her phone. Leon's technology skills were not that great, so he decided to ask Janelle to accompany him to Clarksville, South Carolina, to assist him with directions to reach his stranded friend. Is it normal for a father to ask a daughter for something like this at such odd hours of the night? Well, it was at this point where things took a turn for the worse, as the two did not return home the following day. This made Tanya, Janelle's mother, very worried. She called them numerous times with no success. She spiraled into a state of panic. Not knowing what else to do, she decided to call the police. She filed a missing persons report saying, "It's not like them to not answer phones. I've been calling, texting, and leaving messages, but no response."
I've been calling and texting and leaving messages and nothing.
After she filed the missing persons report, the search for Janelle and her stepfather began. The search was so intense that it involved both the police and the community. They searched every nook and cranny of the area in the hope of finding the girl and her father. Tanya went so far as to go live on Facebook to appeal to the public that she needed her daughter back home safely. Other people who knew Janelle also went live and posted on their social media to spread awareness in the search for missing Janelle. The intensity grew so strong that everyone started to help raise money as a reward for the person who found Janelle. The search continued day after day and stretched to 2 weeks, with no success in finding the two. But the search continued. Sometime later, the authorities managed to find Leon's car. It seemed to have been abandoned, so the police did the first thing they always do. They searched the vehicle for any signs of struggle or DNA that might help them further the investigation. Unfortunately, they had no luck. After all that, they decided to turn their attention to an alternative source, which was looking into their phone records in hopes of finding clues there. This was when shocking information was discovered. Upon looking into the records, they found out the two did not even reach Clarksville. So where could they be? Where would they have gone? Nobody knew. It was not long after the discovery that some news was revealed that gave Janelle's mother a little glimmer of hope. The police received an anonymous tip that Leon's whereabouts were reported to have been around Atlanta. However, the report stated that he was seen alone, which leaves us wondering, where was Janelle? This prompted the police to immediately look into Leon's past. It did not take them long to pull out Leon's file, as it came to their attention that he had an existing criminal record from past convictions. He was found to have multiple charges, including assault charges, child abuse, and even served time in prison. In fact, he got married to Tanya when he was still in prison. Upon his release, he moved in straight away with Tanya and her 2 daughters. This was a pretty reckless decision on Tanya's part, to allow a newly released criminal into her house where both of her daughters stayed. Wouldn't you agree? Leon immediately became the prime suspect in this case. Tanya, however, refused to believe it. In fact, each time the authorities seemed to comment on Leon as a felon, she would immediately defend him without any hesitation. She refused to believe that Leon could be behind this, despite being a criminal with an abusive past. However, in the process of defending him, she would drop comments claiming that she wanted her daughter back safely. By this time, Tanya's behavior made her all the more suspicious to everyone involved in the case. Later on in the investigation, the police received a tip that Leon had been seen yet again. This time, it was at a U-Haul depot in Atlanta. So without wasting any time, the police headed there straight away, unaware of the surprise they were in for. Upon arrival, the police were in utter shock to discover the person standing by Leon's side was none other than Tanya herself. Eventually, the 2 of them were arrested and taken into custody. Leon was charged with abduction, while Tanya was charged with hindering the apprehension of a criminal. After they found Tanya with Leon, the police decided to take a closer look into the 911 call made by Tanya. They realized that the call was all an act to mislead the police, allowing Leon to finish what he had started. This raised many theories as to why Tanya would do such a thing to her own daughter. It was clear that they had planned this ahead of time. Well, except the getting caught part. The worry that remained on everyone's minds was, where is Janelle? At this point of the investigation, people had little faith left that she would be found alive. If she was ever found, that is. An entire year passed since the disappearance of Janelle. Then, one day, the police received a call about human remains that were found somewhere in Augusta. Upon running some DNA tests, both the police and the forensics department were in absolute disbelief and relief, as the decomposing remains that were discovered belonged to 16-year-old Janelle. This discovery led to both Leon and Tanya being convicted and found guilty of murder. Leon was charged with first-degree murder, and prosecutors planned to seek the death penalty against him, while Tanya was charged with second-degree murder. Upon further investigations in 2018, the police uncovered that the couple had even gone as far as to hire a hitman on more than 3 occasions to execute Janelle before they took matters into their own hands. Janelle's life was short-lived, with the world left wondering what the motivation behind all of this was, as the answer is still unclear to this day. What are your thoughts on this case?